agreement. Pick out what you must have and what you don't want. By paragraph, I need somebody to take minutes, cause our secretary's not here. Don't have any,
I'll volunteer.
pardon?
I'll volunteer.
Okay, thank you. So, this is the latest and greatest from the two attorneys. I might as well start by reading the first. This agreement is made by, in between the Black Creek Rural Fire Committee and the Village of Black Creek, local governmental unit, political subdivision and body, public and corporate of the state of Wisconsin, village, for the provision of ambulance rescue EMS services for the village. Whereas the provider provides ambulance rescue EMS services operated by volunteer members of the Black Creek Rural Fire and Rescue Service in the area of Outagamie County, Wisconsin, that includes the village. Whereas section 60.565, 61.24, and 62.13 Wisconsin statutes authorize the governing bodies of the municipalities to provide ambulance services. And whereas 60.23, 61.34, 1 and 2, 62.115, and 66.0301 Wisconsin stats empower and provide for intergovernmental cooperation for these services. Whereas the village has requested that the provider provide ambulance service to the village, and that the provider is desirous of providing such services to the village all upon the terms, covenants, and conditions set forth herein below. Now therefore, in consideration of the foregoing recitals and in mutual covenants and agreements contained herein, the parties agreed to the following. Do we have any problem with that, or? Section 1.1, description of services. The provider shall provide emergency and non-emergency medical care and transport services on a 24-hour per day basis to the village as allowed by Wisconsin law, including but not limited to the transport of patients to the hospital of the patient's choice, except in the event the patient is critically ill and under which circumstances the patient will be taken to the closest available hospital.
Can we talk about that?
Yes, we can.
So, we don't have an ambulance license to take non-911 emergency calls, so can we change that to the provider shall provide 911 emergency, take out and non-emergency, and transport. So it should read, the provider shall provide 911 emergency medical care and services on a 24-hour per day basis to the village as allowed by Wisconsin law.
Jenny, did you mean emergency 911 services?
The provider shall provide 911
That's
emergency
correct.
medical care.
Yeah.
Also, transport of patient, okay. The transport of patient to a hospital of patient's choice. I don't wanna drive down to Furrier or Madison, closest
Closest
appropriate
appropriate
hospital.
destination or appropriate hospital.
Yeah, cause we can only actually transport 2 hospitals. So I would change that to closest appropriate hospital, and that way if they need to go towards like a trauma center or cardiac, we have,
That's beyond our,
we can determine that with them, so
So,
instead of transport, let's see, transport to appropriate or closest appropriate hospital.
and what are you scratching?
Patient's choice,
Hospital, let's see.
We're adding 911 to patients, 911 categorized patients.
Transport patients to closest appropriate hospital.
We could put, can you put it of patient's choice? Closest appropriate hospital of patient's choice, cause then you're still giving them that option.
But then when we get the multi-vehicle accident and they want them to go to AMC and AMC says they need to go to a trauma center, I wanna be able to make that call for them.
So are you taking all patients' choice?
I'm taking out patient's choice. The transport to patients closest appropriate, including but not limited to. What do you think about taking off including but not limited to, instead of just say services on a 24-hour day basis to the village as allowed by Wisconsin law. And then, two of patients closest. To patients closest appropriate hospital. Does that make sense?
Is this defined clearly and similarly in the other service agreements that we have with the other municipalities? I think one question that maybe is coming to me as we go through this is how different is this from,
and why does it have to be different than 3 other municipalities' agreement? I really have.
and I have no idea how different it is, I'm wondering if we're reinventing the wheel here or not, but.
We are reinventing the wheel on behalf of the village. Okay, sweet. So, having conversations today with the town's attorney, I asked, because I was confused, there was an amendment that was produced at Rural Fire, a couple amendments before that, and then this morning I wake up with this contract. And I wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page. So with talking to him, he said, the amendment that was given out last week, he hasn't even seen, that isn't up for discussion at all. That the thing that him and Attorney Sweeney have been working on is this brand new contract. And so the idea is to have this new EMS board take place January 1. It should be able to still happen. But this contract lays footwork for that, even though it's talking about the future, we need to pull back some of that, so it encompasses this year. After this year, the EMS board, all the powers will sit at that EMS board, including like my treasurer job, and, we'll still have a service director, but essentially a lot of those administrative functions will be at that board level. Which will make a lot of this probably irrelevant. So in the prior, it says, upon request of any person or persons residing or within the municipal boundaries of the second party furnish emergency ambulance service and such transportation to hospitals within the area as may be reasonably requested or required, provided however that the first party makes no guarantee. I guess this one doesn't really say it too much on where. It just says ambulance services and transportation to hospitals, so it doesn't dictate, boundaries at all. I just wanna make sure, cause there are times that people will want us to take them down to Freight Ridge. Can't take a.
Right.
Yeah. So I just wanna be careful with the language saying that we'll go to any hospital, and if we're kind of sticking with New London, Shawano, Green Bay, Appleton, and Neenah. I don't wanna travel outside of that.
Jenny, how do we prevent exactly what Dan just said a minute ago? If we've got 3 different contracts, how do we prevent interpretation issues? One contract wants to go here, the next contract wants to go there, it's like I prefer St. Mary's instead of Bellevue.
Do you want my honest answer to that?
What else is there?
To sign the 26 contract that was
Presented.
presented?
Well said.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we're past that.
Why are we past that?
The village board requested financial,
Add that to your 26 contract. We don't have to reinvent this thing.
well, we,
Obviously, that wasn't,
if this was placed in the attorney's hands by the Bill Fire Committee, this is what the attorneys have drafted. The way
I
I
don't
view,
think they've been informed properly of what we wanted. Or did you inform them properly of what needs to be done? The 26 contract needed to be signed with some amendments. Now you come with a gigantic new thing, we got 3 municipalities it was good enough for. There's no reason that we didn't have to reinvent it for the village of Black Creek. We provide all your financial statements all through this. Because of your communicating within your body there, that's where this has gotten lost. Everything's been provided. I'm here late tonight because I'm just about done with this shit.
okay, Dan, could we just settle down?
Yeah, I'll settle down, it's about time I got wound up. Everybody else got wound up, you know? You've attacked ambulance service, you've attacked fire department, what more you wanna attack?
That isn't the intention of this meeting. I cannot speak for other folks that are not present. I've been tasked as village president to present, and support the agreement containing financial oversight. That is the purpose of this meeting. I can't go back to 2026. That is not what the village board entrusted this committee to do. I understand the concerns of different contracts that were fine with the other municipalities. The village board decided that they wanted the financial oversight language in the contract. We presented simpler agreements than this, they got turned down and not even discussed at the rural fire committee in previous meetings. At a rural fire committee meeting, it was decided to present this to the attorneys to draft.
Right there,
Correct, right there.
right there it is, added to the 26 contract, it's done.
Well, we're past that now,
Are we?
we've got this to work on.
I think you need to inform your attorney that this is nuts.
Dan, this committee asked for the attorneys to draft an agreement. So this is where we're at, okay? I understand the past concerns. In my mind, I have no intention to argue about what has occurred in the past. I would just like to complete this draft, get it approved,
Okay, let's move
get
on,
our
move on,
service back.
let's move on. We're on still section 1, we have got, anybody else wanna weigh in on what?
So how do you want that to read, Jenny?
The provider shall provide 911 emergency medical care and services on a 24-hour day basis to the village as allowed by Wisconsin law. Including, but, there's a lot of buts.
Yeah.
But, not limited to the transport to the patient's closest appropriate hospital.
You didn't wanna put 9/11 patients?
I put, no, 'cause that would be the only patients that would be picking up.
Why not?
Yeah, negative and negative. Yeah.
So you wanna put, to 911 emergency patients closest appropriate hospital?
Well, you brought up a point, because otherwise, you've got people who want rides somewhere.
We can't transport except to a hospital.
I know,
I'm fine with that.
to be specific.
So 911 emergency patients closest appropriate hospital, okay.
Are you
We'll throw
gonna-
that at attorney and let them put that in some pretty language?
I don't know, that's pretty clear.
You wanna remove the two buts? Otherwise, it's a double negative.
Yeah, I put a cross out through the bud. So I think instead of getting hung up on the individual words, if we throw this back at the attorney and tell them this is the idea, they're gonna put it into their attorney language. As long as they understand kind of the clear point that we're both making. Is that fair?
We moving on to scope of services then?
Yes.
Services to be provided hereunder shall be available and provided to persons residing in and otherwise located in the village under the pursuant to the terms and conditions of this agreement. Any additions, corrections, thoughts?
Nope. I don't either.
Section 1.3, limitation of services. The parties hereto recognize that as a volunteer organization, the ability of the provider to provide services hereunder may be limited by the number, scope, and training of its available membership. Furthermore, the services provided by the provider are being provided to other neighboring communities if at any time during the term of this agreement, the provider does not have the membership with sufficient training expertise to support the coverage necessary hereunder because of service being provided by the provider in another community, the provider shall so notify the village, and the village will need to find other options to provide the required emergency services to cover the village until the provider shall have such ability. In the event of multiple simulations, simultaneous or no near simultaneous emergency events, the provider reserves the right to determine the priority of the provisions of service hereunder by the provider.
So I think we need clarification on that provider, only because last time I checked, you guys as rural fire haven't gone out on an ambulance call in a while. These services are provided by Black Creek Rescue on behalf of rural fire. I think we need to have a conversation with the attorney on how to write that whole paragraph, because there's a lot of providing providers.
Could add service provider.
Maybe to define a service provider versus a
Yeah.
provider.
So I go back to another form of the question I asked earlier, how is this defined in our existing contracts?
I'm gonna
I-
give you. You guys want a copy of your village? It's proposed, but
You know, cause
I
I'm
know.
not a lawyer, but what I think about this is, how do we know that we're
Yeah.
not entering into some agreement that is worded,
That's it.
and structurally different than
We don't
the other
notify the village.
agreements, there's risk,
That needs to be changed.
I agree, when we're recreating the field here. So this is, what I just handed out was the contract for the town. This is just the town's copy, because I had it right on top. But the language amongst all the contracts right now are the same. But that way you can see how it's worded in that contract versus,
Hey Jenny, what does it mean, so they're saying in here, provider shall notify the village and the village will need to find other options, so this is like, cause it says, or because of service being provided by the provider in another community, so if we're on a call in Nichols and we get a second page that comes out for us in the village, we don't notify the village, we notify comm center that they need to dispatch our mutual aid.
Yep.
So does that need to be clarified versus saying provider shall so notify the village and the village needs to find other options?
I think the intention of that is if we don't have the personnel to staff.
Yeah, but it says, or because of service being provided by the provider in another community. The provider shall so notify the village, and the village will need to find other options to provide the required emergency services to cover the village until the provider shall have such availability.
I agree with Betsy.
Yeah.
If we go somewhere else, I mean,
We're not gonna
We're not calling
Andy
the
and be like,
village.
"Hey, Andy, do you mind if we call?"
Well, what, I guess that's, is there some simpler way to just insert mutual aid? You decide.
It's not
Who's
mutual
gonna
aid
go?
though.
I don't know if that needs to be in the contract though.
Hmm.
I mean, that's
Usually
just-
like a policy for the you know,
Yeah, that's a policy for the rescue squad.
cause we're not gonna tell dispatch, I don't know, call village president.
So Andy playing golf, we can't reach you.
Alright, well, I'll suppose that to him, just to kind of clear that up, our concerns.
You could change village to county. Allegheny County.
But it's still, it doesn't,
Same problem.
it's the same thing, we don't have to tell them who we're calling.
No. Notify the Allegheny
Right,
County
but
Dispatch
in
Center.
in the contract, they don't need to know that we're called, that's just protocol, is that if
Okay.
we are out, we call the comm center.
And we have a secondary provider contract.
Right.
I don't know if this needs to really be a contentious point, because I think we both agree that that whole section, it just needs to be changed where the rescue service, if we're out on another call, we can call county and have somebody else dispatch. Okay.
Okay.
Section 1.4. Mutual aid. The provider will endeavor to secure and enter into mutual aid agreements with other qualified ambulance and rescue service providers to secure assistance when necessary. In securing such agreements, the provider agrees to provide mutual aid ambulance service coverage when requested through 911 dispatch center or a direct call from another ambulance service. The provider agrees that nothing in any of its mutual aid agreements shall be construed to imply that it is an obligation to provide any requested mutual aid. The provider shall require that in the event of simultaneous calls that the ambulance services, calls from the village or other communities served by the provider shall receive priority over calls from outside the provider's general service area.
I have a lot of issues with that one.
yeah, that's,
We don't get any
I
direct
think-
calls from other ambulances,
Well, we do though, like, we
But
just had a
through
call from
county.
village from county rescue.
but it's through county, it's not, they're not picking up a phone and calling Black Rock
Right.
Rescue.
But if you read this, it's called rural fire. Rural fire doesn't even have an ambulance license. So I would say scratch all that, throw it back to Black Creek, throw it back to rescue.
Yeah, if you go back to the first, paragraph of the old contract, or the existing contract, the only, in the first paragraph, the responsibility of rural fire committee is the owner of the equipment. And, they're not the provider, they're the owner of the equipment. So, that's a huge change in wording, and I don't know what it means in terms of additional risk, I guess, I don't know, just,
Well, and kind of the way this sounds, it sounds like if a call comes into the village and the town at the same time, we're supposed to prioritize to the village. Which we can't get two calls at the same time because the county has to page one of them first. They can't page two at the same time. So whichever one is paged first, with the exception of if there's a higher priority call, we're gonna go to the higher priority call. If we get two calls at the same time, we're gonna go to the higher priority and we're gonna defer the other one to the next closest.
If one person stubbed their toe and the other one's not breathing,
We're going to the not breathing one.
we're going not breathing. Okay, so if we kind of throw this back at the attorneys and say Black Creek Rescue holds the ambulance license, rural fire won't be able to enter into a mutual aid agreement?
I don't have a problem with that,
Yeah, that's fine.
And however they need, if they
I don't-
wanna reword that to the rural fire will make sure that Black Creek Rescue has mutual aid agreements, like,
We have an agreement for alternative services with county rescue.
we do, but we also have mutual aid agreements with everybody around us, including county rescue, and that was prior to,
you shouldn't be covered.
But that's not
no, but,
fire.
no. And that's where I just wanna make sure that these attorneys understand.
So what should I write for my note for that section?
Talk with attorney that Black Creek Rescue holds an ambulance license, not rural fire, and rural fire can't do mutual aid because they don't have the license or ambulance.
We ready to move on?
Yep,
The term of this agreement shall commence January 1st, 2026, continue for one full calendar year, expiring December 31st, 2026, and shall annually renew until terminated as provided in Article 4 thereof.
So we're reading everything else.
the problem you're gonna run into is your primary ambulance service is different than what we are right now.
The board didn't approve the 2026 agreement, which is so this is an amendment of that. So,
Do you have comments about that one?
I don't.
Move on. Section 2.1, equipment. All equipment and supplies necessary to provide the services hereunder subject to the limitations set forth in section 1.3 shall be owned by the provider. It is understood that the committee currently has only one ambulance vehicle. That's pretty good. Anything else? Maintenance, upkeep, repair, and replacement. The provider shall be responsible for the maintenance, upkeep, repair, and replacement of the ambulance and all related equipment necessary to provide the services hereunder and subject to oversight, care, maintenance, upkeep, replacement, and insurance coverage expenses. Comments?
Makes sense.
No problem.
Move on. Insurance, the provider shall at its expense keep and maintain full and complete insurance coverage upon the ambulance vehicle and the provision of its services hereunder. The provider shall provide the village with a copy of its certificate or certificates of insurance, evidence, proof of the following insurance coverage from companies licensed to provide such coverage in the state of Wisconsin.
So as you go through this, rural fire doesn't own all the insurance.
You have
Village, what do you guys own? like, I know the town covers a lot of, like, I think the town covers the building for insurance. Do you guys hold any insurance certificates for rural fire, either on vehicles, equipment?
Not that I'm aware of.
What about for the ambulance we bought?
That's through rural fund.
Rural fire. Are we gonna need liability to obtain insurance?
That's taxed through rural fund.
So because of how we were set up in the past, sometimes it was just easier to say, I'm village president, I'm town chairperson, I need a quote, to get insurance, or add it on to an already existing plan. We started cleaning this up a couple years ago, but I think this building is still on the town's insurance.
We will be here next week to inspect. Insurance company.
Okay. That's probably details I haven't been familiarized with, so.
It's part of the messed up we're set up.
Yeah.
Jenny, does all this, do these specified coverages already exist?
I would have to look, I don't know offhand, we're gonna have to do some digging, town and rural fire side, to find out what those limitations are. So I propose we kind of put that on hold until we find out what we're covered for and get those certificates.
Yeah, I guess, just look at the policies and.
We'll just put a verification to it.
So do I need to go through A, B, C, and A, or move on?
I think you can just move on then.
We'll just put a requisite in there for verification, that's all.
Additional insureds. The provider shall cause the village and the other communities serviced by the provider as additional insured. I don't understand it. Other than, right now we contract with 2 other municipalities, they don't buy insurance for us.
Unless that's like for liability in case something goes back at the municipality. I'm not sure why they would want that.
What does everybody see about,
So,
under the umbrella liability?
I'm good.
You good? I'm good. Okay. Cancellation or material change notification. The provider shall require that all insurance coverage hereunder include a 30-day prior notice to the village and other communities served by the provider of any material policy change or any pending or threatened cancellation. All such notices shall name the provider and identify the specific insurance policy involved.
This is insurance policies only, not contract.
I think you should also probably let Black Creek Rescue know, just so.
I would think everybody should know. The drop of coverage would have to be caused, there'd have to be a cause of that. I think we would know that plenty of time ahead, I believe, I don't know. Any notes you wanna put there, Nolan? Then we'll move on to Article 4. Base annual compensation. In order to meet current operational expenses and anticipated future capital needs, the village shall pay the provider an annual standby fee for the initial term of this agreement based on the population proportionate set forth in section 4.2 of $32,515.87. The annual standby fee shall be paid in 2 semi-annual installments on or before January 15th, July 15th. There's crossed out stuff here, so
And initially, Bob had it for quarterly installments. I suggested that it be changed to reflect what we recently agreed to for the fire department with the 2 separate payments.
how about the amount is that?
I think the amount is consistent.
With what?
Is that different than the existing? The existing's got different amount. Not in the background.
That's just for the, that's the ambulance payment.
I agree.
This doesn't match.
Yeah, like 32,515.87 is.
I just wanna know the source of that number. If anybody can come up with that.
That sounds correct to me based on what I,
32,515.87, yep.
Okay, just so that it's clarified. I think that's the most important about the whole thing. Anything else? Based annual compensation formula. The base annual compensation to be paid by the village to the provider shall be based on the village's proportionate population as established by the 2020 federal census. In accordance with that census, the village proportionate share of the standby fee is $12.15 per capita or $16,279.46, which is 34% of the total population served by the provider.
Well, that references not just the village of Black Creek, that's the total population served,
Yeah,
whether it's all the communities.
I just wanna make sure that it's
I
the
don't-
same for everybody.
So that looks like a 2025 number to me.
Census population is 1357 in 2020.
So are they anticipating that we change this contract every year to the new rate?
pardon me?
Are they anticipating that we're gonna change this number to the new rate every year?
Doesn't say that.
I think the numbers should be based off your annual budget and then adjusted accordingly, correct?
I agree,
It doesn't match. Multiply that by that.
but those two numbers don't jive, I don't think. What is your population of your village?
13,350-ish.
If you do the math, 1357 times 12.15, I get 16,487 and 55 cents. So the numbers don't match.
Right. That's a twenty
That's a-
twenty-five contract number, at 1215, that's the only reason I know that.
1,357. It was the 2020 number.
Okay, 1,357. So, the total is 32,000.
You have a copy of the village's proposed 26 contract, what's the number?
That is, but it was changed after this, that's my hesitation. So, it was,
Way back, with the,
I think,
Oh,
2396.
Number's supposed to be based on, first number.
Somebody doing that math with me too?
So she's questioning, what is the difference from this number to this number?
Like the math, what's the math, what are they based on?
Okay, so the one above, the 32,515, that is the total requesting for operational budget that we're requesting. Base annual compensation formula, base annual compensation, base annual, so it is, that is just explained how we get to that.
So are we adding those together?
No,
Why are they both in?
because one explains how we get to that number, the base annual compensation to be paid by the village to the provider is and shall be based on the village's proportionate population as established by the 2020 federal census. In accordance with that census, the village proportional share of standby fee is, I think that's duplicating the same thing as above.
I'm not sure why that's there,
That's what I'm-
honestly.
Cause it's not 32,000 plus 16,000 plus 14,000 that's in the next paragraph.
No.
I'm lost, that's.
No, and this 1215, I know that's a 25, and I know the 16 is the 25, because that's how much we received from the village so far.
Well, and this, yeah,
We should be adding together.
So we need to,
So the land.
4.1 and
That's what I'm
4.2.
supposed to do.
right, but it's not, we aren't asking for this plus this plus that.
right,
Correct.
It should be just one.
We're asking for 32.
it should just be one with the explanation of how that formula is actually done.
Under 4.2.
Yes, so 4.2, we need just how it's,
So the number's right though, it just needs the explanation added. Right,
right.
32,
So we need to get rid of the in accordance with the census village's proportionate share of the standby fee, blah, 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 blah. All that needs to move if the village wants that spelled out
Doesn't jive.
in there.
The numbers don't jive.
You understand? So, leaving that first 4.1 kind of alone, not changing anything.
Okay,
And then going down to 4.2, I think the purpose of that is just an explanation of how they're actually getting to that number.
Jenny, are we gonna keep the 25, or are we gonna go to the,
We're gonna, I crossed out the
I
25.
think that it would be
okay, so we're staying with the 16,279, or are we gonna up that by a couple hundred bucks?
That is a 2025 contract number. That number should actually be the two
That's what I
payments
said before we
equaling
even
the
started on this.
32,515 right above.
I agree.
They just, I don't know why they pulled that, cause right now, the way I read it, it almost looks like you have to pay the 32 plus another 16.
Yeah, no, let's fix that.
Okay, so, I just kind of, I crossed that out and just kind of left the explanation of why it's going to that.
But can we specify numbers?
so cross the 1215 per capita and the 16.
Yes. So per capita would be like 2396.
and then it's just half of the 32, right, is the math?
Is the math, yeah, 32,500.
That doesn't match.
Would be 16,257.94.
Say it again, Jim.
16,257.94. And that would be what your two semi-annual payments would be.
16257.94.
Correct. Per capita rate is 23.96.
Okay.
Wait a minute, 23.96
Correct.
times 2 equals 32. It is 32,515.87.
Correct.
Yeah, let's specify that, that's clear.
Then it should read like it's 16,257 semi-annually, so it's just 34% of.
That's where I'm guessing those two, 4.1 and 4.2, I'm guessing are gonna get squished together. I don't know the purpose of,
The two separate.
yeah. Like I said, we're gonna throw this at the attorney, they're gonna make it pretty because that's why they went to school.
It just needs to not read as 32 plus 16. since
Right.
that's not-
Right.
Correct.
Good to move on now.
My ears were just smoking in the back as I was doing math, and I was like, that's.
Okay, yep, I think we're good.
We're good to go on to the ambulance loans. The town of Black Creek, the town, one of the communities served by the provider, has previously undertaken the underlying financing for the purchase and acquisition of the ambulance title in the name of the provider. The village previously agreed to provide additional financing to the town to enable the town to make annual payments to the lender to repay the ambulance loan. In addition to the standby fee set out in section 4.2, the village further agrees to pay to the town the village's proportionate amortized ambulance loan contribution for 26 of $14,427.61 for any renewal term hereunder, and for 27, the ambulance loan contribution by the village of $14,427.61 shall be made on or before January 15, 2027.
You guys already have your position scheduled, agree with that?
That was.
Yeah, next year's the last payment.
I'm good with that.
Additional compensation, the the parties recognize that circumstances may arise that may require additional funding to allow the provider to meet its obligations, and to the provider, the scope of services sought by the community served by the provider, including the village. In the event of such an occurrence, the parties hereto, along with other communities served by the provider, agree to meeting and discuss how to best address maintaining proper funding to enable the provider to continue to provide the services under this agreement.
Is this language also included in the other contracts? We're making an assumption that the other communities are willing to negotiate in the event that section 4.4 occurs. Are they aware of 4.4?
I'm assuming they're not aware of 4.4. No, so it would just be the village.
Well, then that needs to be clarified.
That it's just the village?
Well,
Yeah, that's,
Cause one of the
I
hard
don't-
parts is gonna be going back to the three other municipalities and saying, well, the village wants us in there, but they want you guys to pay for it, even though they've already signed a contract.
yeah, so that wouldn't be proper. So, so scratch the other communities.
I agree, just scratch it, scratch the other communities, because they're not involved.
I mean,
So you
We
want
don't- we
parties
don't-
served by the provider,
along with the other communities. Scratch
So get rid of along with the other communities,
Yes.
parties here to served by the provider.
And realistically, that probably would happen, but it shouldn't be spelled in this contract to include the other communities.
So Jenny, read that sentence again.
In the event of such an occurrence, the parties hereto served by the provider agree to meet and discuss how best to address maintaining proper funding to enable the provider to continue to provide the services under the agreement. We need to find a new word. I'm tired of provide, provider, and provided, and
That's incorrect.
that.
Article 5, financial records and reports. Accounting practices. During the term of this agreement, providers shall establish, maintain proper financial and accounting protocols with the standard being set by general accepted accounting principles. Financial reports, we're gonna stop there.
I'm gonna stop there. So, I don't know how that list turned into this. Talking with the attorney today, he's concerned that you guys want us to use a accounting software that is not HIPAA compliant. Also in here, it doesn't talk about like a network that you're gonna establish, the firewall, the maintenance, who's doing all that, how's that getting done? Also, training and compensation, like, how is all that happening?
Jenny, is the current software HIPAA compliant?
It is, it's not an online, it is held on an SSD drive, that is not accessed by a Wi-Fi computer. I do have, right on the QuickBooks page, it says that it's not, compliant with HIPAA standards of privacy. And then here's also an accountant opinion from Jazetsky's, which I use to, go through my books and also, payroll. So,
So we're on 24 right now?
yep, last year I had to get a new computer, and actually, I think it was late 2024, I had to get a new computer, and, which led me to a conversation with them on what software they would recommend me using. So they told me to go with 2024 desktop version of QuickBooks. It's not an online version, so it's not accessible. They're the ones that got me set up in 2018, 2019, when we initially went on to QuickBooks.
So the only reason why we're HIPAA compliant now is because of that offside. How do we fix that? And could we take the 25 and make it just as compliant, given?
So 2024 is the last time that QuickBooks Desktop was available.
Mhm.
Everything now is online. It being online is where it doesn't allow for HIPAA compliancy. And that's the worry, because once they have access to the computer, they have access to the whole computer.
Understood.
I'm not opposed, if you guys wanna switch softwares, I'm not opposed to that. I just would ask that it would be HIPAA compliant.
Are there any other, I agree with Jenny, but on the other side of that, does anybody else have any statements regarding that? Jenny just gave us a green light there, for discussion, I'm not saying that, but does anybody else have any qualms about that?
So, say if you do online bank reconciliation?
No, connecting a bank account to QuickBooks is very funny. We had that issue with Rural Fire where it actually dumped half the books into data tables.
Did we want any cloud issues?
No. So, and Andy, in here, it says specifically, do you want aging summaries? What exactly are you looking for an aging summary? The whole reports to include but not limited to balance sheets, income statements, accounts receivable summaries, accounts payable summaries, aging summaries, cash flow statements. So, do you know where I get my money from? Well, not my money, but rescue's money, from patient accounts. I can't give you patient account information. That's a HIPAA violation, and it's a very, you gotta be careful, because once you pay an entity, that payment is, but that name is protected.
There just cannot be an open door or a back door that would, under any circumstance, violate a HIPAA. It just can't happen. We understand that.
So what specifically, the attorneys were told that list.
Yeah,
So I don't know where aging summaries come from or why it's there.
that's what I kind of assumed, but
Cause that's the only.
so if we write down that list again and say,
This is what we want.
okay, so where is the village's stance on this accounting software? What is the problem with the,
I questioned Bob about that because I had no idea that you needed upgraded software. And apparently you don't. So I did question that in an email. I was just trying to find that in my email, but
so is this something that you're gonna need to look into more, or is this something that we can cross off?
I had suggested to Bob in that email, I wasn't sure if you needed upgraded software. So we should either look at removing that or change or modifying it. He sent me back a reply explaining why he felt it was necessary to have this in here. I was just trying to find that email. Right now my brain's kind of
Mush?
mush.
So do you wanna hold on that one for right now?
I would,
Well, is the.
what I need to do, I think, is to communicate that Rescue does not need upgraded software.
Well, you're
I
qualified
don't
for that.
remember his specific reasoning for that to be necessary. And just so you know, I understand, okay? It's just.
I figured you did, but I was like, it kind of threw me for a
Well,
loop.
I thought he was confused about the need for rural fire to have upgraded accounting software, is what I initially thought, so,
I don't know if Bob is very clear on how we're set up with having conversations with Bill today.
mhm.
I don't know if Bob completely understands, and Bill's not sure Bob completely understands either, which could be part of the problem. I don't
Could
know.
could that aging thing have to do with outstanding invoices?
So typically, aging is to do with outstanding invoices. The people
So-
I invoice,
Right, so
are
they,
patients.
but you go through a billing agency, right?
I do.
So why can't they give you a statement that says, these are 90 days, these are 120?
Because supplying that to the village or to anybody is a HIPAA violation because it has patient names on there.
They should be able to give
I
you
think you're
just the
saying
numbers that are
summary, though.
outstanding.
I can give them like the amounts,
Or account numbers, they're,
yeah,
They should just need the amounts. If they're just looking at what's out there for money, that's all they should need.
right, like I
If they
can
are
do that, but
requesting
like
any more
if
than
they're not gonna use it, when we went through that list, like there was cash flow sheets, balance sheets, profit and loss sheets, and I bet you no one can tell you the well, okay, maybe Dan. But I don't think anybody could tell you the difference here probably between those three.
Right.
So it's like, well, why go through all the, okay, Megan, you probably know,
Your
Melanie,
well, your balance sheet would include your accounts payable, it just would be a lump sum.
Right.
Correct.
So do you want the breakdown, or is a lump sum accounts payable enough?
breakdown would be preferable.
And is it okay to be, this is 1 to 30, this is 30 to 60, this is, because without names, it's not HIPAA information.
right. But also understand that that document is not probably gonna come from,
It's gonna be altered.
it's gonna be
It's gonna be
altered, it's
manual.
not gonna be an original.
Mhm.
So, I mean,
I agree.
Okay,
unless you print it and just white out all the names. Right,
But
like,
that's dangerous.
No,
Yeah, you can't do
Yeah.
that.
it's a lot of work though, yeah.
But that can be backdoored in a heartbeat.
well, and the whole, you know, included but not limited to, that whole statement makes me worried,
And et cetera.
and et cetera, yeah.
It's gotta go.
I have no problem giving you guys the financials, I just worry about
I
when it's,
don't want there to be open-ended.
yeah.
Jenny, I just wanna make sure that we're all on the same page. The 24 software that you now have, just for this record, it is GAP approved,
Correct, it is.
okay, as would 25. Except that we don't need to change, cause there isn't any need. We're already getting GAP approval.
What 25?
If,
Oh,
but there isn't any, I agree, there's no need. If you're already GAP compliant, and you're not violating HIPAA, go forward. We're arguing over something that doesn't need to be argued over.
okay. So are we crossing that one off? Do you wanna check what?
Although the aging certainly would be nice. It's not the mandatory though.
So what you want, you're suggesting,
Personally, if you're not, if you don't know another software, I would prefer just to cross it off.
alright,
Well, just one other thing, as long as there's oversight, because it's not really the software that's the issue, it's the oversight that goes to it. And I'm not pointing fingers in any way, we simply wanna make certain that we're maintaining our jobs.
Well, and I think we're gonna get down there with the monthly reports
I
that I
agree,
talked
I
about.
agree, I agree, I just wanna make certain that we're covering our bases, and that we're doing it in a honest, open, and transparent way, so that we are being honest with our constituency.
I'm good with that.
So with that whole A going on, is that what I'm hearing? Let's move on then.
Yeah, 'cause it talks about the requirements of the software
I know
then.
it does.
Okay. There you go.
Are we done with 5.2, or did we even go into it yet?
no,
Well,
we're
we-
stuck on A right now.
Well, we're on, okay.
And B was crossed off completely here, I don't.
We're deleting A completely.
I would suggest that we do not need an upgrade.
Yeah, and I just
I'm not
noticed that
going to either. I'm not going to.
he wanted to upgrade the QuickBooks Online, which we can't do, correct?
And I would
Correct.
suggest that rural fire will not do that either, because I don't know why we would have to.
Yeah, I'm just, no.
I don't, but I don't know if I'm reading into this that
Yeah.
that is a request of rural fire also. Just because it's here, I don't want it dragging over here too.
Mhm.
So,
I follow you.
Well, as long as the oversight's there.
Okay.
We just wanna make sure that it's not one person handling all of it without oversight. We need to protect ourselves, and then, of course, you guys agree on both sides. We agree.
Yeah.
We're on the same page.
let's move on to see monthly reports by rescue service provider to the village following the implementation of accounting software updates. We're back to updating the software.
Where you at, Dan?
On C, it goes on here to say about the execution of the agreement after the upgrade. I don't need an upgrade.
Yeah, we need to back that out, or at least the clarification of an update.
I don't know.
The remainder
So B
sounds
is
fine.
what we actually agreed on. Profit and loss statement, bank statement, reconciliation statement, month-to-month bills, month-to-month checks.
We don't have a problem with that, but here they're making a reference to a accounting update, and that's Dan's point.
We don't need that upgrade in this contract.
Yeah, we're not arguing about what's in it, we're talking about, we don't need it's not necessary to upgrade.
No.
So is that when you can get rid of C and just put B back in?
No, we still need the what's in it. We just simply don't have to make the reference to,
But that's what's
Okay,
in,
that's
that's what's in B that's crossed out, profit and loss statement, bank statement, reconciliation statement, month-to-month bills and month-to-month checks.
Can you just start at rescue service shall within its monthly report provide to the providers, whatever, provide providers, I don't know, regular monthly meetings, and then it goes on to the list.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume he had B in there until we got the updating with software and stuff. Maybe that's too simple.
Well, somebody implanted in there that we needed this big upgrade. And I don't upgrade just because you have a modern day accounting services. I have an accountant that don't care what version you got, it's the person running it. And that's the numbers we need. I don't know why the connection to online was important.
That's, yeah, I agree.
Okay?
That's
So,
what Bob put in here.
yeah, I don't,
It's up to us to tell him what we want.
I don't want either entity, rural fire or ambulance to have to be on an online banking software.
As a financial fraud investigator, I don't either.
Well, no, everybody was on there, and that's why I wondered where this all come from.
Yep.
I don't, somebody told them that's what they wanted.
We actually had this discussion at Rural Fire a couple months ago about online banking, or online books.
So it's
Alright,
just-
so number 3, if we go to monthly reports by rescue service provider to the village, the rescue service shall within its monthly report to providers at the provider's regular monthly meeting, provide the following financial statements for discussion. Hold on, where's Dan? There he is.
Need to take a recess for a pee break?
Alright, Dan? Alright, monthly reports by rescue service provider to the village. The rescue service shall, within its monthly report to providers at the provider's regular monthly meeting, provide the following financial reports for discussion. Year-to-date balance sheet, year-to-date income statement, year-to-date cash flow statement, year-to-date general ledger, and monthly bank statements to correspond with general ledger entries, payroll reports, attendance roster, on-call schedule hours, and call statistics. If either party to this agreement in a reasonable fashion has concerns over the correlation between bank statements and general ledger entries, then source documents of transactions may be requested and probably furnished to address concerns.
Is there a general ledger right now?
I have never ran it on the QuickBooks. I'm assuming there is, but I've never actually looked in it because I probably looked at it in 2019 and never again.
So in the current software, there's, to your knowledge, not a general ledger available.
Hold on,
There should be.
I'm sure there is, but I'm also
I
not
get
gonna
those.
tell you I've looked at it.
I get those at work all the time.
But this,
And if it is available, who's responsible for generating it?
who wants it? I've never been asked for it. Like, I'm sure I can run a report out of QuickBooks for the general ledger, I'm sure I can. I just have never looked at it and I don't know what it looks like. from
Well, it's the ability to track back.
I'm sure it has it. I can't imagine QuickBooks won't have it. It's just a matter
Generating
of generating it and who wants it and who's gonna look at it. It's the same thing with, you know, like, I don't mind producing this stuff as long as everybody looks at it. But often I sit the financials down and 2 people look at it. And I just wanna make sure that I'm completing all this work that's actually gonna get looked at every month as the village is requesting.
Typically, a general ledger is the statement that feeds all the rest of the statements.
Correct. I know what one is, I've just never ran it for rescue.
But the problem with it is in the absence of one, we got problems in that it's not, you don't have the ability to go back. It's a little bit like a reconciliation,
Mhm.
but in the absence of that, there's some protection that isn't there.
So, do you want all these reports at every meeting? Cause even the statistics report is going to be very labor burdened.
So, generally, I talk about statistics.
So I think
I don't think that's necessary, that's going overboard.
Okay. So is there any of these that I can cross off, any of them that I can do quarterly instead of monthly to try to save some time?
Well, I would dare say the GL has got to be there.
Every month?
Well, here's my thoughts, why not? Because you're gonna do it anyway.
I'm fine, as long as somebody's actually gonna look at it.
I'll look at it.
Okay.
Everything else, I don't have a problem, with the stat stuff, I think that might be going a little bit overboard there. Or on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis.
Well, we have it quarterly here,
I know, I saw that.
so whatever's quarterly there, that's what the attorneys were supposed to put in.
And I understand why Bob put it there,
Okay.
I understand their thoughts.
So then could the general ledger be quarterly also?
Yeah, tell me what you want monthly and tell me what you want quarterly.
Pretty well there, is if we just add the GL.
Okay.
They have said it well, and it's fine. And the quarterly stuff that they've mentioned, fine. I don't have a problem with that, we just put the GL in there, we're done,
You want the GL monthly then?
if possible, yes.
Okay. Just so I put it under like. I broke my pencil.
Dan has an extra one, I found him.
I got some in my bag.
Got another one?
You broke yours already, Dan?
No, that's why I brought two.
Oh, well, I got one.
All right. I was gonna do due diligence, provide one for you.
Hold on to it, I might still throw this one over there.
Don't aim for me.
I'll say.
Don't worry, your aim's not that good.
Attendance. And the bottom say, on top of it.
It's in here, right, it just says monthly instead of quarterly.
Yep.
Payroll, attendance, on-call schedule, hours, and statistics.
Okay.
We're back to this annual audit.
Run D.
Yes. The provider shall engage in an annual audit in compliance with GAP shall occur of the rescue services, providers, financials. The audit shall occur following the fiscal year end and if on December 31st of a given year shall be completed between January 1st and April 1st of the subsequent year. If the rescue service provider's fiscal year ends at a time other than December 31st of a given year, then the audit shall occur within the subsequent 3 months following the end of the fiscal year. The cost of the annual audit shall be a budgeted line item with the provider's annual budget as may be reflected in the rescue service provider's budget.
So as I had to explain to somebody last night at Rescue on your village board, Rescue's not against you. We just can't pay for it.
Even under a budgeted basis?
Well, I mean, if it's budgeted, yes, but my problem
What it
was,
says.
well, right, but it hasn't been budgeted. And January 1/27, this board is gonna be new. That was part of the problem that we had in December is, okay, we agreed to the amount, but you need to use 12,000 of this for an audit. That'd be like saying, Bob Sweeney, you charge $250 an hour, but I am demanding $100 goes into your coffee club.
I know, but seven months is on the altar.
I questioned Bob on that, and I did tell him that the parties don't necessarily have a problem with the audit, it was being able to pay. And I questioned this paragraph as to, is this gonna be a 2027 audit of 2026 business? And that's what I foresee it being. We left that dollar amount open. Rural Fire would have to decide what budgeted amount we wanna throw in there for an audit in 2027.
So you're saying like, because 2027 is gonna go to a new board.
Yeah, is it relevant now, given that we may end up being in a district 7 months from now? I understand your point,
Yeah.
Andy, but, and it doesn't remove the 7 months that we ought to be having some constraint over and attention to. We don't just simply wanna throw that 7 months accountability away, I understand, but we also understand that we may end up being in a different district and a different reporting mechanism.
And Cicero has already made a stance on, you know, not wanting any portion that they're paying to be going towards an audit as well. And so I want that to be out there.
Well, that was not upfront to the 3 municipalities that signed the contract.
Right.
Well, this isn't between Cicero and anybody else, and you guys, this is between us and you guys.
Actually, the village and town, honestly,
Yeah, that was my point, I'm sorry, I misspoke.
yeah. You know, would you guys let, Melanie and, you know, potentially like a Rochelle Oskey, Teresa Real, sorry, I kinda threw you in on that. Is it possible to have these guys come and sit here and, I mean, Dan's educated, go through my books.
I don't have a problem with that, except for one detail, and that is are we within our legal bounds liability wise to do that?
Right.
I mean, as a entity, could we incur liability for having done that, as opposed to a certified issue, a certified accreditation?
Auditor,
I don't
yeah.
have a problem with it, because for example, if we set up a group of private individuals and simply let them help, and that's all they're doing, I don't have a problem with it at all.
I don't know if that would satisfy the village or the needs and wants of an audit.
Understand, however,
They're not auditors, and I understand that.
understood,
I'm just throwing that out there instead of trying
I
to.
don't have that title under my name either.
What about the HIPAA?
Last time I checked, Andy doesn't either.
So you're suggesting
Right.
that I go back to Bob and say, well, instead of this language for an audit, to get by this year, can we have a group of knowledgeable individuals? Is that
Applicable to this year, yes.
applicable?
Just this year.
Going forward, this is perfectly fine, and it makes sense, common sense. But as it relates to this next 7 months, heck yes, do it.
What about HIPAA information?
We would not be able to see anything
Honestly,
with
no.
patient information.
They wouldn't be given any patient reports or anything with
Well,
that.
QuickBooks isn't.
Yeah, but
isn't
if
gonna
you're
designate it.
invoicing
You're not gonna
patients,
see
it's
it.
got the information.
So,
You would have to redact every,
in my accounts receivable, I would need to redact the names
Yeah.
in the memo lines.
Correct.
So I specifically report patient amounts under our billing agency to try to keep those names out as
Yeah.
much as possible, cause that memo line doesn't print everywhere.
sure,
And typically I space it so it's, most of the time the field is pushed, so you can't see it anyways. That would be my suggestion.
sure, makes sense.
It's a pretty common practice, actually, internal audits.
Yeah,
And you have Melanie, you have me with experience, you have the county treasurer that lives here, you have Jennifer Saspin, you have lots of people that would be able to do that with some expertise.
Yeah.
would you guys get paid, or are you volunteering your time?
I wouldn't think so.
I've already
I know you've
offered to
offered,
volunteer.
Yeah,
It's just a matter of liability.
mhm,
Jenny, as long as we can say and do everything in our possible to go to no boo-boo, can't be any boo-boos.
No, I get it, that's fine.
Well, I think you're doing it the right way, but as long as you're making every effort not to violate a HIPAA. Because nobody wants to go down the HIPAA road.
I'm pretty protective over my patients, Dan.
I'm glad to hear that.
Okay, so what are we doing with D? You wanna cross it off and talk to Bob?
I'll have to talk to Bob,
Okay.
because
Should we just put a
he's
hold on that
probably
one?
gonna be opinionated on that, so.
I would imagine.
Same thing when I question the software thing.
What?
And maybe he has a good reason, and maybe there's a different software out there.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not fighting the software upgrade, just not that one.
Yeah, yeah, and then, like I said, I emailed them questioning it because I didn't know what software it had or what version. Now that it's 2024, I'm good with that.
Well, the other proviso is that for the 7-month period, he should have no problem with that. Going forward, we're fine.
Mhm.
I really don't see how he's gonna have any problem with it. I really don't, unless he's got a software preference issue. And then, of course, we should be willing to listen. And I'm certain that he will go over that with Andy if necessary. And the research to validate that.
Okay, so we'll just hold on that one.
We move on to E. Furnishing of records by rescue service provider. Either party to this agreement shall be entitled to reasonably request records from the rescue service at no cost. If a dispute develops over the documents requested, then the dispute shall be addressed as an agenda item at the next meeting of the provider. If the disputing parties are unable to resolve the dispute at the next meeting of the provider, then either party shall have cause of action, which may be addressed to the Circuit Court of Allegheny County, Wisconsin. The prevailing party in any claim brought before Allegheny County Circuit Court shall be entitled to recover reasonable attorney fees.
That's legal language.
That's a lot of legalese. And just so everybody's aware that, you know, the conversations I've had with Bob, some of this is because of the previous problems we had a number of years ago. So this, from his point of view, some of this language is, like the audit and all that, is to avoid those problems we had a number of years ago. So it, you know, kind of explains the thought process in what Bob drafted here.
It's legal CYA.
But.
I don't
yeah,
have any
I
problems
don't
with it, honestly.
see
If
it-
you guys wanna see something, I have no problem
Yeah,
showing you something.
It's just legal CYA, that's all it's doing, it's covering his butt and ours. Everybody's for that matter.
So what was crossed, are we done with that then?
yeah. we're
Yeah, I
good.
think we're done with that.
G in the quarterly reports that were all crossed out here.
Oh, yeah, hold on. When we go up to furnishing records by rescue service, can we put somewhere in there about no patient information will be released?
Please, we don't wanna be a part of the hip boogie either. We want boogie dances.
I'll just make them work that in there and put it somewhere pretty.
So as G, that's all crossed through, that we don't need any of that.
I think that's.
Well, I kind of added that back in and we'll talk to Bob on where he thinks that's,
Okay.
Bob, Bill.
Yeah, he'll feed that into back in.
Article 6, termination. This agreement may be terminated by either party upon written notice to the other given at least 120 days prior to the end of the term of this agreement or any renewed term under section 1.5.
Quick question, Jenny, are we on a physical year accounting basis, and if so, when is the end of the year?
We follow a 12-month rolling calendar, so 12/31.
12/31?
Yep.
Okay, then that would indicate 29 August would be the latest on that 120 days. Okay.
Okay.
Notice of termination, any termination notice under section 6.1 shall be personally served on the provider's chair or the village clerk, or the village or sent to the other by certified mail. That's pretty standard operating procedure, miscellaneous provisions. Section 7, independent contractor. This agreement shall create a contractual relationship between the parties hereto and shall not be construed to create any other relationship between the parties, including but not limited to a joint venture. The provider shall be deemed an independent contractor. Where's our lawyer?
Yeah, I'm not sure why that's in
I'm I kind of worry about that because I don't know if it's gonna try to limit the ability of creating this new board. Shall not be construed to create any other relationship between parties.
I got a problem with it on your side of it,
Including-
in the sense that each of your employees now become a statutory question.
Oh, that's
Statutory definition of employee versus independent contractor, not that the whole, in aggregate count constitutes that, which is what Bob's saying.
No, I just wanna point out, most of the rest of the document was drafted by Bill, so.
Bill being the town attorney.
John's away.
Oh, and Bill is a municipal lawyer, okay? He's done great things with other municipalities in regards to this. I don't think one glove fits every hand in this case, so I think some of this that we're looking at here is probably a kind of a standard.
I don't think so.
It is.
Let me, I think I might ask him about, I'll ask him about that and as well as how, if that eliminates the possibility of creating this new board, cause that's not really in anybody's favor either.
We're not there yet.
So we
It will
move,
cost too much.
move on to
We're
governing
gonna have to
body.
get it up for the,
Government and the rights, the agreement and the rights of the parties hereunder shall be interpreted and enforced in accordance with the laws of state of Wisconsin. All actions involving breach of this agreement shall be venued in Outagamie County. That just says if there's a problem, we're in Outagamie County. When we use the
I prefer Shawano, but whatever.
I was hoping for Brown County.
I guess that would, there's nothing that would be
No.
offensive there. Compliance with laws and orders in the event that any state or federal law or regulation or any order issued by a governmental authority prohibits one or both of the parties hereto from honoring any provision of this agreement or any part thereof. The parties shall be promptly met to discuss how they satisfy the intent of this agreement by alternative means. If under such circumstances and after good faith negotiations, the parties are unable to reach a mutual acceptable written agreement to satisfy the intent of the agreement, then this agreement shall be null and void and no further legal effect.
Standard clause.
That's what I think, this is all standard operating procedure on this. Lack of severability, yeah. I'm not a lawyer, don't plan to be one. In the absence of written amendment, in the event of any provision of this agreement or any part thereof is held by a court of competent jurisdiction or determined by any other governmental authority to be invalid, ineffective, or unenforceable, and in the reasonable opinion of either party, such an event invalidates the purpose of or intent of this agreement. Then the balance of this agreement shall survive only to the extent that the parties agree in writing to a mutually satisfactory amendment by which they are able to satisfy the intent of this agreement by alternative means. If under such circumstances and after good faith negotiations, the parties are unable to reach such a mutually accepted written amendment to satisfy the intent of the agreement, then this agreement shall be null and void and of no further legal effect. I think still some more standard operating procedure. Am I not reading that correctly?
No, you're good.
Changes in laws unless otherwise explicitly provided in this agreement. Any reference to laws, ordinance, rules, or regulations shall include such laws, ordinance, rules, or regulations that may be amended or modified from time to time hereafter. The headings, titles, or captions contained in this agreement have been inserted only as a matter of convenience and for reference, and such captions in no way define, limit, extend, or describe the scope of the agreement or the intent of the provisions herein. No third-party beneficiaries except as otherwise explicitly provided by this agreement. This agreement does not create any third-party benefits to any person or entity other than the parties and is solely for the consideration herein expressed.
I got a question about that one. Black Creek Rescue qualify as a third party to this?
I don't know.
I gotta ask your attorney that, cause it,
Well, doesn't it define?
first party, second party,
But doesn't it define who the parties are? Legally, right there.
whereas the provider provides ambulance rescue and EMS service operated by volunteer members of Black Creek Rural Fire and Rescue. It doesn't actually name us or define us.
Then that might ought to be clarified just a little bit.
Yep. Okay.
And
The
you're
first
right.
line in the contract, Jenny,
Yes,
defines it as Black Creek Rural Fire Committee is the provider.
Right, where the
Right.
provider doesn't have the license, and I think we just need to,
I'm thinking this should have 3 parties at the start.
yes,
and
Yes.
then
yeah, we
that
need,
clarifies
like,
a lot of things.
we need our own,
Separation.
Their
yes,
own name.
well, and rightly so, otherwise you're not protected.
right.
Alright. Amendments, this agreement may not be modified or amended except by a written instrument executed by the parties here to execution in counterparts. This agreement may be executed in counterparts, each of which shall be considered on original instrument, but all of which shall be considered one and the same agreement. The entire agreement, the agreement including the attachments here to contain the entire agreement between the parties with respect to the transaction contemplated by this agreement and matters related thereto, and does hereby supersede and render null and void and of no further force or effect any and all prior agreements. Drafts of the agreements and understandings shall be understandings between the parties. No assignment, this agreement shall be non-assignable by either party without the written consent of the other. In the witness thereof, the parties here have by duly authorized officers, representatives set their hands and affix their seals on the date set forth below.
Well, quick question, does all the other agreements, including the evergreen we might be in, does section 710 in essence remove all codicils? I agree in essence, I don't have a problem with it, but it's just a technical point. I don't think there's a real issue here, I just wanted to make certain we clarify that on the record.
That's something I don't know either, that would be,
I don't think it's an issue, because Bob and Bill will take care of that.
I guess if we have no further corrections, I'll open it up to, anybody else that has a public comment or anything to say at this time.
comment, I've got something to say.
Alright, go
It's
ahead.
more efficient.
Go ahead.
I guess I just wanted to clarify next steps. Obviously, we have some rewriting to do. I just wanna mention that the village board does have a special meeting already in place for the 19th. I'm, not confident that the attorneys can do this by the 19th. And then we'd have to have a little fire meeting also. The problem I'm running into is we only signed a 30-day contract with County Rescue. So I'm gonna have to contact County Rescue with my concerns that we are really gonna be pushing the end of the month to get this accomplished.
I pushed that issue with Bill too today, just so you know,
Yeah.
like, it is 2 weeks, Bob didn't know the 2 weeks, well, 30th.
Yeah.
Bill said he has the availability, he thinks he can get it done, I don't know what Bob's schedule looks like though, and I know he's a busy guy.
Well, I just wanted to share the concerns and, communicate that.
Did you, can I ask you a honest to God question? Did you guys initiate the whole new contract thing? Like, instead of just doing an amendment onto the 26th contract, was
You
it?
talking about the 30-day day?
No, I'm talking like instead of,
Rewriting.
instead of doing the contract with an amendment that I think we were initially looking at, I'm curious to know if it was, is it attorney driven or is it village driven to write the whole new contract?
Well, initially, the village board drafted, an amended contract to include the financial language. It was brought to the rural fire. The initial one was not, and this is my recollection, so if somebody wants to beat me up, I'm getting used to it, but anyways, the initial amendment that the village presented here, basically was shot down because of the audit requirement and who was gonna pay for it.
At that time though, wasn't it just that audit or the amendment that Shannon Blaze had written up?
I'm
Versus-
honestly just curious.
Instead of just going back and fixing
Yeah,
the
so-
contract that we had, she rewrote it, but why couldn't we
But
just?
she rewrote, she just added amendments to
Right,
it, I think.
so why couldn't we just edit them
Well,
to,
That's what I'm kind of just, how did we get to, a
Completely
piece of
start
paper
over.
that was gonna be attached to the contract to a brand new contract? I was just curious what the driver was.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned earlier, then we had an amendment that we dropped the audit and had some financial language that didn't get approved. And then at one meeting, the rural fire said, well, we'll have to get the two attorneys together and this is,
So do you feel like the attorneys just kind of decided to create the new contract rather than maybe amendments?
I'm guessing they didn't even look at the original contract.
Okay, that's what I kind of feeling like too.
No, in good faith, water under the bridge in the past. I think this is a major step forward.
Very.
In all but just a few items, with a little bit of help from both attorneys, I think we've got a very good chance of getting this through. Does everybody else feel the same way?
I wanna say yes, honestly, but I wanted to say yes a lot of months ago too, and I don't think we would have guessed
Yeah,
those.
when this all started, I never dreamt we would be,
Right?
Well, but we have a choice. We can go forward in good faith.
No, it's,
We talk about water or feelings or whatever. Let's move forward. let's move forward. In good faith,
My only deal is, you have 3 other municipalities made an agreement, how is this gonna reflect with that?
then you're not referencing the potential January 1 new district, are you?
No,
You're
I'm
talking
just
about
saying,
existing.
we have 3 existing contracts.
No,
How are these other 3 communities supposed to feel about this?
do they have a say in it?
They're all part of this.
They do, and the town does as well. You know, for us to approve this, we have to be ready and willing, essentially, to sign the same contract. I don't know, I'm having trouble understanding what the gap is between what this is and the existing agreement. I think I'd be looking for some legal help to understand kind of where we started and really where this is ended up. I don't know enough about the 2 documents.
I think we're closer than we think.
We might be, but I don't
I do.
know that for fact, that's all.
Well, like I said, it was, you know, we dealt in good faith, one entity did not. And that's,
Well, here's your olive branch.
well, I understand that. But I still don't know that that's the olive branch that we all wanted.
Well, we've got some choices, this is it.
Yeah, no, I understand.
We either move forward, or the next question is, are we being true and transparent and honest to the constituents of our communities?
Or are we just tired?
Amen, hallelujah, pass the bread. You said it well, but not the point. The point is, are we being true with integrity to our constituents and the people that we serve? And if the answer to that is, let's go forward and do that, just that.
Like I said, I'm just, I'm
And
concerned.
just to reiterate again, that, you know, the driving force of this is because of past issues that have occurred, and not to critique decision makers shortly after that period occurred. Could we have had similar financial oversight in place, in writing, back then, and we could have
I actually-
potentially over,
Do you remember that meeting, Randy? We went to Rural Fire and I offered Rural Fire the books, cause him and I sat here and we had no idea what to do, and Rural
Mhm.
Fire never wanted the books.
yeah, so then, you know, I don't wanna dwell on the past, but right now, we came to this potential, this conclusion with an agreement, with financial oversight, with potentially an audit process. Had we made better decisions back then, we might not be here today with this, you know, I don't know if that makes sense, but, and I'm not trying to point fingers or anything, I think last time I was president, I got booted out right when the cat and cash stuff came to head. So I wasn't part of this group going forward after that, so I don't know what conversations occurred, if any.
I hope of things coming out of this, that this clears people's names that are being accused
Absolutely.
of wrongdoings that really aren't doing any wrongdoings, and as bad as it may sound, I mean, these departments are families, go after one, you go after everyone.
Yep.
Can we just shut the shoulda, woulda, coulda down?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Let's get it shut down and bury it.
So,
We go forward, we're better people than that.
I guess at this time, we will advance our conclusions or comments to our lawyers, and hopefully they can get it rewritten within a short period of time,
Agreed.
in which we will call a meeting to address it at that time. Is that fair? Anybody else wanna throw anything at me? A motion to adjourn, go ahead. My sugar's getting down to 80.
This way, 20 more points and you get 90 by me.
We're in the village.
Motion to adjourn.
Let's drive to Way Gardens.
You gotta call Conan.
Drag
Adjourn, all in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.